Welcome to Scrum Masters Elite_UK, a channel that dives deep into the quiet journey of Salmaan Moerat. If you love rugby, be sure to subscribe to follow along.
Today I want to talk about Salmaan Moerat and the comments made by coach Deon Davids, and I approach this story with a rather unique mood. Not because it is shocking news, and not because it contains dramatic hero versus villain moments that people sometimes like to construct in sports. Instead, what made me pause longer while reading this story was its calmness, a story about quiet hard work. About how an athlete can be evaluated from many different perspectives. And about the sometimes large gap between how fans perceive a player and how the people who actually work within a team see that same player. The central figure of this story is Salmaan Moerat, a South African rugby player who competes for the Stormers and is frequently called up to the South African national rugby union team. What makes his story interesting is that although he is not always widely praised by fans, coaches and rugby professionals consistently rate his role within the Springboks system very highly. When I read the words of Deon Davids, an assistant coach of the national team, I realized a simple truth that is often forgotten in sports. The value of a player is not always found in the most spectacular moments. More often, it lies in the quiet contributions that ordinary viewers rarely notice.
Moerat has been given the captain's armband for the national team several times. That is not a small detail. In any team, especially one with the tradition and reputation of the Springboks, awarding the captaincy to a player is always the result of long observation and evaluation. It is not based only on a few good matches. It also reflects character, leadership, training attitude, and consistency in the way a player approaches the game. Yet another aspect of the story made me think even more. Moerat has received a fair amount of criticism from fans since making his international debut in 2022. That raises an interesting question. Why can a player who continues to be selected and trusted by the coaching staff still become a target of criticism from some supporters? Perhaps the answer lies in the way we, the people watching from the outside, view sports. When people watch a rugby match, most fans focus on tries, explosive runs, and moments that make the stadium erupt. But positions like lock often carry a very different responsibility: contesting possession, disrupting the opponent's structure, supporting teammates in rucks, and creating the platform for attacks that happen afterward. These tasks rarely show up in highlight statistics, and they almost never become the viral moments shared on social media. What Deon Davids said about Moerat helped clarify this. He did not emphasize spectacular plays. Instead, he highlighted qualities like hard work, physical strength, game intelligence, and strong team spirit. Those qualities may sound simple, but in reality they form the foundation of every successful team. As I continued reading, another detail stood out to me. Even though Moerat suffered a torn ligament in his big toe, and had to miss the remainder of the URC season, head coach Rassie Erasmus still included him in the list of 49 players invited to the national team's early year training camp.
To me, that decision sends a clear message: a player's value is not defined only by whether he can play at a particular moment, but also by his place within the team's long-term structure. A player can get injured, a player can have imperfect performances, but if he continues to be considered an important part of the collective, that suggests the coaching staff sees qualities in him that spectators sometimes cannot see. Thinking about this reminded me of a comment by former Springboks head coach Nick Mallet. He once compared Moerat's playing style to the legendary Bakkies Botha. That is not a light comparison. Bakkies Botha was known for his immense physical presence in the tight battles of rugby. He was not always the one scoring points, but he often created the platform that allowed the entire team to function. When Nick Mallet says that Moerat plays in a similar way, it suggests that he sees in this player a structural kind of value, the kind of strength that helps keep a team operating properly. But the thought that stayed with me the most came from a very short sentence by Deon Davids. Sometimes we all want the perfect player, but in reality perfection comes from the combination of performance and the right attitude. To me, that statement applies far beyond sports. In many areas of life, we tend to judge people based on their most visible moments. Someone may be judged because of a single mistake. Another person might be seen as not good enough simply because they do not produce attention-grabbing achievements. but the people who work alongside them, the ones who truly understand the process, often see a completely different story. That realization made me ask myself a simple question: how many times have I judged someone too quickly based only on what I saw on the surface? Sports, in some ways, reflect how we see the world. Fans often want clear heroes. They want simple narratives: someone is the star, someone else is the disappointment.
But the reality of a team, much like the reality of life, is far more complex. A world champion team is not built only from its brightest stars. It is also built from players who are willing to do the hardest jobs that few people notice. Without them, the brilliant moments would hardly exist. From a personal perspective, Salmaan Moerat's story feels like a lesson in persistence. A person can be criticized, a person can be doubted, but if they continue to do their job well, and if those with expertise continue to trust them, their value will eventually reveal itself over time. That kind of patience is not easy. In the era of social media, public reactions come very quickly. One poor performance can trigger immediate waves of criticism, but the true evaluation of an athlete, or of any person, usually requires looking at an entire journey, not just a single moment. For me, this story is also a reminder of how fans should approach sports. Passion is a beautiful part of sports. The enthusiasm of supporters creates the atmosphere that makes matches special, but when that enthusiasm turns into overly quick judgment, we risk overlooking the deeper values of the game. Not every player is born to be the star of highlight videos. Some are born to do the foundational work that keeps the team running smoothly. Without them, the spectacular moments might never happen. And in life more broadly, this story reminds me of something very simple. A person's value is not always measured by fame or by the attention they receive. Sometimes that value lies in reliability, in showing up every day and doing the job well, in maintaining the right attitude even when no one is watching.
Looking at the entire story, I do not see it as just a piece of rugby news. To me, it feels like a small window into a larger truth. The world is often built by people who are not always the ones receiving the most attention. And perhaps that is exactly why stories like this are worth reflecting on. They remind us that persistence, the right attitude, and team spirit remain values with lasting meaning, whether in sports, in work, or in our own everyday lives.
Thank you for watching Scrum Masters Elite_UK. Salmaan Moerat's journey reminds us that true value sometimes lies in quiet contributions. See you in the next video.